Looking for amazing finds and incredible deals? Visit Erie City Mission Thrift today. From stylish clothes and shoes to quality furniture and home goods, you'll discover something new each time while changing lives right here in Erie. It's shopping that feels good and does good. Come see us in Erie and Girard. Erie City Mission Thrift. Thrift with a purpose.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree East 5th next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
We're having the crucial conversations that we need here in Erie, and this one is a special health focus and mental performance, and we're going to talk to a subject matter expert here with us, Neil Wattier. He is the author of Built Different Mentally, a guide to mental performance for young athletes, parents, and coaches. Neil, thanks for joining us here. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
All righty. We're a family show. I'd like to get an origin story. Tell us how you came up and how you would eventually come to be in this field.
I'm a retired Air Force veteran. My wife and I are both retired. I served almost 28 years in the Air Force.
What were your major functions there, do you think?
I came up through aircraft maintenance, doing the planning and scheduling for maintenance, and then spent some time in what you would consider the human resources equivalent. Mm-hmm. And then became a resilience trainer and instructor by chance. I was working at Stratcom, and we were joint stationed with the Army, and they have a very strict resilience program. So I jumped in and helped them with their program, and that's where I really found my passion for sport and performance psychology, where it's like I don't. And there's the clarification of it's not a clinical. I'm not a clinical provider. I don't work on mental health issues. I work on mental performance issues. So it's kind of that spectrum. Like, you don't go to an emergency room doctor if you just need a strength and conditioning coach. Same thing. You know, if you don't necessarily need a clinical provider, you come talk to a mental performance coach, and we do something similar to what a strength and conditioning coach would do for your body. We do it for your mind. So
who were your, like, when you were in active duty, who were your clients? Was it enlistment? Were you dealing with senior officers? Like, who would get your services like that?
We worked with anybody that wanted to perform better, including we did workshops for spouses and even dependent children. Wow. Junior high, we did a great, I remember when I was in Omaha, we did a transition. We had a bunch of junior high dependent children that were going into high school. So we did a performance of handling the stress and pressure and making that transition from junior high to high school. They loved it. The parents absolutely loved it. And we actually had a couple guys come over to us afterwards that active duty, they came in their uniform because we did it over lunch. And they said, this is not what we thought it was going to be. We were regretting signing up for this thing. And they said this was the most helpful thing for my child, but also for me. Because that's the one thing that I love about mental performance is I've worked with everything from junior high school athletes. I've coached college D1 rugby players. I've worked with F-16 fighter pilots, and then I've worked the gamut of all these military members. The conversations are always the same. It just matters the context, the language, and the performance environment. But the conversations are always the same. It's confidence. It's self-belief. It's effective self-talk. How do I recover from mistakes? It's the same conversations, and generally, I would consistently say the same 5 or 6 conversations over and over again, because everybody has the same issues when it comes to how do I perform effectively in whatever environment I need to perform effectively. So it's not just for athletes. This is for anybody. I've worked with business professionals. I did a workshop for insurance professionals who are facing very stressful work environments, and I did a resilience workshop for them, and they loved it.
Isn't resilience kind of part and parcel of coming up in the military? Is it embedded in the DNA, or Or is this something that you have to unteach and teach maybe better practices?
And
I know that's a tough question.
No, that's a great conversation, and that's one of my favorite, because one of my favorite go-to sayings is, "What doesn't kill you might make you weak." Because everybody likes to talk about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
But if you think about it, think about anything from an athlete or somebody joining the military or even a business professional going into whatever profession they want to go into. If you don't deliberately train your body, you're probably going to either get hurt or get weak. And we don't think about that with the mind. We don't think about deliberate training, where if I train you ahead of time, you're going to be more resistant to stress and be able to perform better when stress and pressure find you. Not if, but when. And if you assume that you're going to perform well, you may not. You might overcome and you might do well, but you also might just get by. Or you might learn bad habits. You know, when you talk about sports are great for kids, they are, but they also teach, if we don't do it the right way, they could learn bad habits. They can come out of there with bad self-esteem. Bad things can happen if you don't train yourself properly. And we get that with physical training, but for some reason it doesn't click when we talk about mental training.
That's interesting. I don't want to go on a rabbit trail too early, but we're begging the question here. You hear you read these articles about the elite, let's say an elite high school star, right, or an elite young person. And, let's say they're a swimmer. They've been swimming since they were 3 years old, 4 years old. They're just sick and tired of it. And they're tired of their parents hovering over them. But they have this capability. They have this physical strength, but they just get burned out. How do you overcome that?
There's definitely a balance there, because everybody has a passion of some kind, and everybody wants to do well at their passion. And so if you can help them find the balance, and I was actually just writing an article for a couple news articles, and we were touching on this exact subject, where how do you encourage parents and coaches to support young athletes in a way that develops them instead of puts them down? Mm-hmm. And that's what we want. We want to challenge young people. I want kids to want to win. Right? If you're going to play competitive sports, I want you to want to win. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the character that you build for the purpose of winning, right? Because it's not the win, right? The scoreboard is going to be interesting for today, but really what we're talking about is building good humans over a long period of time. And it's not about piling all this stress and pressure and all these skills and all this training on people as young as possible. It's about building them up at the right time, in the right way, over a long period of time. That's one of the struggles that we have, is this huge emphasis on youth club sports, and you got to specialize early, and you got elementary kids with strength and conditioning coaches. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that we just have to make sure that we do it the right way with the right expectations.
Remarkable. The parents probably need some training in all of this. Talk about that.
Well, I'm a big psychology nerd, and one of my favorite movies is Good Will Hunting. And the reason why I bring that up is because Robin Williams' character had a great saying that I teach this stuff, but I don't know how to do it. And admittedly, people refer to me as mental performance coach or a performance expert, which is I take that with a grain of salt, because I'm continuing to learn just as much as everybody else. I make just as many mistakes as anybody else does. But that's the point, right? It's never to be done. It's never to seek perfection. It's to seek excellence, which is the constant pursuit of getting better. And so if we take that attitude, we are going to be more likely to accept the criticism, the critique, even as parents, of, hey, you could probably do this better. And we all know the gamut of all the parents that are out there. Mm-hmm. And when we were down in Phoenix, our son was playing. He played 2 seasons of baseball. In his second season, he was already being asked to come on to club teams, and we kept telling people no. He's only 12. He's only 13. Why are we going to do that? Because basically it's just, for a lot of times it's a money grab. They're building programs. Mm-hmm. Some people are well-intended. They're like, well, if we train them early, they're going to be better later. Well, to a certain extent, yes. I use myself as an example. I started playing tackle football when I was in 4th grade. So I played 4th, 5th, and 6th grade tackle football. So by the time I started 7th grade football, I already had 3 seasons of experience. By the time our 4-week season was over, everybody knew everything that I knew. I had no advantage over anybody else because the development happens so quickly at that age that just because you have some specialized training at 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, when you start hitting 14, 15, 16, that's when development really happens. And that it's not that I want to discourage people from training young athletes. There's nothing wrong with it. Just be realistic of what are we actually doing here. Right?
Yeah.
Are you pushing so hard that you're taking the fun away for a 12-year-old?
Right.
What are we actually doing here?
So what is your son doing now? Is he playing baseball?
He has actually decided now he wants to play tackle football and lacrosse. So moving up, because down in Phoenix, soccer's huge, baseball is huge. All the traditional sports are big, but he was looking at baseball. But since we moved up here, we've kind of gotten back to that small town feel. Before the show, we were talking about I'm originally from Nebraska, and it's all about football, wrestling, volleyball out there. And so he kind of got this bug in him that he can't stop talking about playing tackle football. So he's going to be playing 7th grade football. His mom is very nervous. So we're talking her through it, and she's working on it. But she's a super big sport about it. But we just have to be aware that it is a realistic possibility. There's nothing wrong with being nervous or aware of the things that could go wrong.
Sure, right?
You just can't let them hold you back from having an exciting life.
But he'll play middle school and high school, or are you thinking a club? I don't know if there are clubs for football.
He'll play middle school.
Yeah,
he'll play for the school team. Yeah, and that's what I told him.
That's one of those things that we have a conversation about. Is we're decimating some of our high school, especially like baseball or soccer teams, because they're going on AAU, right? Basketball, especially, And
I even when I was young, I knew kids that played on club teams. I'm not bashing club teams.
Right.
I'm just talking about we need to have realistic expectations for what we're doing to children that are 7 to 13 years old. And what is the purpose of your drive and getting your child into these sports? With our 12-year-old, I'm very upfront with him that there is nothing wrong with just playing a basic sport. When he was playing baseball down there, and we told him no to club sports, he was very frustrated. And I kept telling him, even when we would go to the park and we would practice baseball, just him and I. Yeah. I said, "What are we doing?" Because he would start doing all these crazy things that he saw his friends doing. And I said, "We are here at the park to field the ball, throw the ball, hit the ball. That's it. I don't want you doing any crazy stuff. I don't want you trying to throw me a curveball that ends up going in the grass, and now you're not actually getting the training that you want out of it." I said, let's focus on the things that we really need to focus on so you can go have fun, and while you're having fun, you're going to train and you're going to end up becoming better, right? Because you're not going to end up having all these problems where you're trying to push too hard, too fast, too soon.
I feel like that's a huge teachable moment. Neil Wattier's book is called Built Different Mentally, and we are diving in on it here. And I want to go through some of the kind of the key bullet points of your introduction here. So let's talk about brain freeze, and maybe we should preface this in saying, again, these are teachable situations, teachable considerations for anybody who wants to perform better at their job, whether it's sports or in business or maybe even on the line at the plant,
Right. Yeah. Anywhere people perform, people can focus on mental performance. My wife is a paramedic by trade, and she works with first responders all the time. And we have these conversations a lot because that is it's a dangerous profession. And there's a lot that gets carried after the job for those people. And, some of that is mental health concern. Other of it is more of a mental performance concern. And it can be both. And we can have that conversation. And you referenced the book. That's essentially, I wrote the book that I wanted me to have, but also the people around me to have when I was a kid. What are the things that I wanted to know, and what did I want my parents and my coaches to know when I was being raised? And so I took a very lighthearted approach to this. There's some goofy language intentionally in there, okay. Right? You referenced some like the brain freeze, and I tried to give funny names to common situations that people have to kind of ratchet it down a little bit and not take this quite so serious. mainly because everybody experiences things. There's nothing wrong with you, and that's what I love about mental performance, as opposed to clinical counseling. That's why I deliberately did not go to clinical route. Is not everything is broken and needs to be fixed. Some things just need to be fine-tuned, right? If I'm out of shape, I don't necessarily need to go to the doctor. I just need to go to the gym, right? And just, I need to exercise and I need to eat right. That's not something I necessarily need to talk to a doctor for, and I certainly don't need a surgeon for it, right?
Wow.
So we need to make sure that we're approaching this thing with some clarity of what are we actually trying to do. And we talk about mental performance. You mentioned resilience earlier. The more I prepare before I find stress and pressure, or before stress and pressure finds me, the better I'm going to be able to handle those situations and perform very well. And that can be youth sports, it can be firefighters, police, it could be a business professional. It's the same conversations everywhere we go.
So, okay, I do 15 hours a week. Brain freeze, I think, is part and parcel. It's like I'm trying to think of, let's say, a movie title, or I'm trying to think of a person, or just, forgetting the pronunciation of a name. Your brain goes off.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be from any number of things. I mean, it could be sleep, it could be nutrition, it could be, wow, I've been on the air for hours and I just can't think straight. It could be I'm thinking too hard and my brain is going too fast. Sometimes the answer is to actually slow down, and you start getting the answers. So there's a lot of things, and that's primarily reference to focus and attention, where especially when you're talking, the younger the athlete you're talking about, the more we have to remember that these are low cognitive development. Even when we get into high school, they are not as cognitively developed, meaning their brain is not functioning the way that we think it's functioning, and we know this about high schoolers. But then we put them into sports, we put them under stress and pressure, and we wonder why they have trouble. It's because it's a normal experience of an adolescent who's going through change.
Would you say that something like focus is an issue because of the amount of technology that is being used by our young people? Again, we always want to blame the technology, but I think it might come into play here.
It's a factor. Sure it is.
Okay.
There's been a lot of research that talks about that the human brain is adapting and changing, but that was no different than, when we were kids, we did certain things that adults didn't like, and they blamed it on something, right? It was MTV, right?
Right.
There's always something to place blame on. Okay, but that's the point, is stop placing blame on things and figure out how you work best in certain situations and prepare for those situations by doing things deliberately. I keep going back to the physical example. If I'm out of shape, I need to go to the gym, right? If I don't feel like I'm as resilient as I should be, then I need to have a conversation that's going to help me develop the skills so I can effectively work through stress and pressure, not avoid it, not overcome it, work directly through it so that I don't have to be so stressed when something stressful happens. I can take a breath, I can calm down, I can think effectively, and I can do the things that are within my control so that I can perform effectively.
You mentioned stress and pressure a few times here. Is that the great enemy for a high-performing athlete?
That is, you are getting exactly what you asked for. There's 4 words I actually use: stress, pressure, anxiety, and adversity. And I actually use those in the book. I think it's chapter 1. They're the partners of performance. If you're going to be a competitive athlete, if you're going to be a firefighter, if you're going to go in the military, right? If you want to be a politician, whatever it is, you are asking for that. That's what you're signing up for: stress, pressure, anxiety, and adversity. It's part of the gig. And so stop talking about it being a barrier to performance and start talking about it being part of the performance environment and figuring out, no different than if you're out of shape, you run or you lift. Okay. So then how do I use skills, mental skills, so that stress and pressure are just part of the environment and I'm not bothered by those things. I mean, think about any athlete, right? Like football is an easy one because even if you're not a sports fan, you know about football, right? You look at the quarterbacks that have lasted in the league. They're all very attuned to the stress and pressure and how to manage the pressure, right? And people talk about that, but that's only the first part, is understanding that you have to be able to do these things. The problem is actually doing them, right? There's another funny little saying that I like is don't confuse simple with easy. All the stuff we're talking about is very, very simple, but none of it's easy. And the main reason why is because our brain looks for shortcuts, right? You can, Charles Duhigg and the Power of Habit, like all these great books that go in there and talk about the psychology of the brain and how the brain works. A lot of times they compare it to a computer. It has default programming. It wants to run the default programming. So when you go under stress and pressure, you typically default to something. It could be anger. It could be anxiety. It could be embarrassment. It could be self-doubt, but it also could be star performance. And some people naturally have some of those things, but all of it is trainable.
Wow. I'm thinking about where psychology is right now. Maybe I'm, I'll have people throwing shoes at their radio, but we talk a lot about anxiety. We talk a lot about overcoming adversity, but I feel like our culture right now is in a place where they don't embrace it. They're trying to, they're trying to minimize that, Neil.
I think that you have well-intended people, whether it be, somebody, hey, I heard this on the radio, I heard this on a podcast, or, influencers, I hate that word, but, right. You have these people that they will take the good research and they'll go turn it into something, right? And that's true with anything. You look at it, fitness, nutrition, health, and wellness, and all these things. Mental performance is no different. Resilience is no different. I think that the discussion, the enhanced discussion on mental well-being, generally speaking, has been phenomenal. Just like any other topic, it's going to go 900 different directions. Wow. And we just have to be aware that not all of those directions are necessarily helpful or healthy. We need to have realistic conversations and really get back to basics. What are we talking about? And so as an educated and experienced person who I am really good at my trade, I'm not going to claim to be a clinical professional, but I have a lot of clinical professionals where we've had some really good conversations to figure out how do we find our way through this, because they don't do what I do and they shouldn't do that. Right. If you go to a clinical professional and they say, oh yeah, I'll train you to be a great athlete. Well, if they don't have the education and experience, that's not within their area of specialty. They shouldn't be doing that. But we have these great conversations.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
Neil, I mean, we just need to be real. We're going to have a lot more coaches and parents listening than maybe young athletes to a radio talk show. But we were talking about these four elements that are part and parcel of being an athlete: stress. You go through them.
Stress, pressure, anxiety, and adversity. It's part of it. And it's actually the first part of what I consider an elite mentality. People talk about being elite, having that real mental toughness. The first part is just accepting that stress, pressure, anxiety, and adversity are part of the performance environment and actually are now part of your life. You accept it, you deal with it, you learn how to work through it, not around it, not overcome it, but work straight through it and understand that it is now part of your life. How do I deal with this? How do I use it? And that's what the best athletes, the best performers in any profession are the ones that figure out how to use their performance environment, how to perform their best inside of all of those things.
Are they getting like a hormone hit when they know that they can cruise through that?
Well, yes. I mean, there's a lot. We talked about there's mental performance is not a single topic. In fact, when I worked for the Air Force and I was on a human performance team, we had 2 cognitive performance specialists, 2 mental performance coaches. I worked with the F-16 pilots, and my partner worked with the Reaper MQ-9 drone operators, the pilots and the sensor operators. We had 3 strength and conditioning coaches, a nutritionist, a physical therapist, a massage therapist, aerospace physiologist, and aerospace psychologist, because the Air Force has recognized that performance is many different things, and it takes many different things. It's not just about being fit, right? And so we have to understand that at the same conversation that we have with the young children, just understand it's just a smaller version of that. And they're going through changes rapidly, not just physical, but the mental, the emotional, and all the things that go along with that. So mental performance is just one part of the conversation. It's a major part of it, mainly because it's not talked about enough. And it's that's not a knock on people. It's just people hear about this stuff, right? But that's almost like hearing about something from your doctor,
right?
You're not going to go out and start telling people all about the stuff that your doctor told you about now, because you know what you're talking about. And so it is difficult. It's a hard conversation, but that's why I like doing it, is because I want to see people do well. I want people to experience excellent performance or start building towards the potential of what they can do. And there's a lot of cliche things out there, because it's hard to turn on a podcast or watch any social media without finding somebody that says they're a coach of some kind. And I get that can be frustrating for parents and coaches, that they're just inundated with all this information, which is why I try to take it down to its simplest level possible. Use simple language, explain simple things. Just don't confuse simple with easy, right? This is all still very difficult things, which is why it takes a lot of repetitions, because we want to make sure that we do the right thing over and over. And if you don't practice it, you can't just assume, okay, hey, I want you to make sure that you keep your anger under control, and then go out here and play a sport where you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be pressure. There's going to be referees. People are going to be yelling at you. You're going to have opponents trash talking. And oh, by the way, you're going to take the shot to win the game, right? Like, oh, no pressure. Right. So I want you to be confident and calm down, right? So we can't just say those things. That's like a coach saying, I need you to be more agile. They won't train. They train those things. They're not just going to tell them, hey, go be stronger. No, I'm going to train you to be stronger. So we have to train these things in order to make them happen. And we were talking earlier about, there's a lot of criticism of next generations. And when I was a kid, it was, the older generation talked a lot about us. So I'm not going to bash anybody, because the generation is experiencing a lot of things that we didn't have to deal with. And yes, anxiety is part of that. It's a great part of the conversation. But I think it's important for people to understand that mental performance is on the right end of the spectrum. Clinical counseling is on the left end of the spectrum. They're all part of the same mental health care spectrum that wants you to do really, really well. And I think it's important when you talk about things like anxiety and depression. Those are things that you should not own, right? I don't go to the doctor and say, hey, I think I have a concussion. Tell me I have a concussion. No, you're going to say, hey, I bumped my head. Would you examine me? And they're going to do the diagnosis and try to figure out what's wrong with you, so they can heal you, so you can get back to optimal performance. But we have people that try to own anxiety, or they own depression. Like, it's almost like a badge of honor. Anxiety is not, unless a clinical person says you have clinical anxiety, you should not be owning that. That is something you feel and experience, and it's part of the performance environment. Of maybe it's a student, maybe you're not an athlete, but maybe you're experiencing trouble sleeping because you're worried about your test.
Right.
That's anxiety, right? You're experiencing something that's stressful, and it's causing you to feel something, and part of that feeling is now causing you to perform lower than you would hope. Right? So that's what we're talking about here. So I want to take it down to its lowest, simplest level, that my goal is to help people perform well under stress and pressure.
Yeah. I want to go to another one of these mental performance challenges and have you unpack this. The confidence crisis. Sometimes doubt creeps in. You feel unsure of your abilities. I get hit with this every once in a while.
Sure. We all do. Right. And a lot of people will say, fake it till you make it.
Right.
I get it. Well-intended.
Imposter syndrome,
Right. And that's a real thing, right? I wrote this book over 4 years ago, and I just published it this year. Ask me why.
Yeah, why?
Because I had self-doubt.
Yeah.
I questioned myself. Am I worthy of being a published author? Who's going to listen to me? Why would anybody listen to me? I had all those same things. That's why I made the comment earlier about the Robin Williams quote, right? I teach this stuff, but I don't know how to do it, right? I question myself all the time. It's part of the human condition. Some people are better at it than others, but everybody experiences this. It's one of the number one conversations I had with F-16 pilots, right? We watched Top Gun and we're like, oh, they're so great and they're so cocky and they're so confident. No, they're not. They have a very dangerous job and they have realistic concerns, which causes a hit to their confidence, right? Why would you expect anything different? Why would you expect a student athlete who has all the social and educational responsibilities to then on top of that add all the sports responsibilities, give them the captaincy with no leadership training, and ask them to go do all the things that we're asking them to do without the training? And this is one of the things that we built over 3.5 years. I was with Grand Canyon University in Phoenix with their men's rugby team. Over 3 years, we focused on developing culture, because the culture is what's going to dictate the expectations and the standards that we hope for people to perform well. And then within that development, we can then start developing the individual people. If I develop the individual people, but I don't develop the team culture, they're going to run into a brick wall.
How did you get buy-in? What was your key
the coach
performance factor?
So it's a funny story, and I love Coach Sean O'Leary. He's an Irish guy. He coached at Notre Dame, coached professional rugby, and now he's at Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon University's rugby team is only 11 years old. I want to say the youngest team after that, D1 rugby team, is like 33 years. Oh, wow. Some of them are 150 years old. You look at some of these really, really good rugby programs. But Coach O'Leary is amazing. He's doing great things down there. I was teaching some psychology classes, undergraduate psych, and one of my classes was sports psychology. And one of my students, Colin, he was a great student, and he was a clown. I loved him. And one day he said something about, you really should come talk to the rugby team. And I said, I don't know anything about rugby. He says, it doesn't matter. You just got to come out. And I said, okay. I said, set it up and figure it out. He came back to me a couple days later, and he's like, Coach said he doesn't want to talk to you. he doesn't have time for your nonsense. And I could see Coach O'Leary saying that. And it took like 2 or 3 weeks, and finally Colin came back and said, I finally talked him into it. He's going to meet you on Friday. And I knew what he was doing. He said, go meet him at the baseball patio at 4 o'clock on Friday. And I'm like, well, that's not going to give him very much time, because he's got to go and I got to go. So I saw what he was doing. So I met him at 4 o'clock. I said hi. He proceeded to talk for 40 minutes and then said, okay, you start on Monday. I said like 10 words during the whole conversation. He knew before we had this conversation, he knew he needed it. He just didn't, maybe it was just one more thing he didn't want to deal with.
Right.
But he knew, right? It's hard to be a parent. It's hard to be a coach and not understand how important these things are. I just don't know how to do it. So I don't know how to talk to people about it. So therefore it's scary, or it's intimidating, or it's annoying because there's just one more thing I got to worry about. And I just want to teach the kids how to, field the ball, hit the ball, throw the ball, right? I don't have time for all this mental performance nonsense. Yeah. So I showed up on Monday and I just followed the team around for 2 weeks and just met people and watched and learned about rugby and learned about Coach O. And then we jumped into it, and it became this amazing relationship where over the 3.5 years we built an amazing culture. And I'm not your typical mental performance coach. And I mean that because I'm coming from the military. I do have a little edge to me, right? I do have a little bit of that coach edge to me. And there's some times where I got in some players' faces, mainly because they're not upholding the standards that we have for the team from a character standpoint. And I had to let them know.
You signed up for this, basically.
And that's some of the things that we do, building culture. That's another social media term that people like to throw around, but we broke it down to, you either want to be here or you don't. But again, I can't hold you to standards I don't set. So we talked about above the line and below the line behaviors, meaning here's the line. Below the line behaviors are things that you no longer get to do. You don't get to get into fight. You don't fight. You don't get to get drunk. You don't get to mistreat women. You don't get to mistreat your teachers. You don't get to do this and this. And we wrote them on the board. You want to be part of the team. You don't get to do this. And we did have people we excused from the team because they did something that was on the board and they knew they weren't supposed to. And it was very obvious. You do these things, you're gone. And then we have above the line behaviors. If you want to be on this team, you have to do these things. You have to go to school. You have to go to work. You have to pay your bills. You have to show up in the right gear and the right kit, and you have to show up. You have to do these things. If you don't do these things, you're going to receive discipline or punishment. So we started there, because then it was easy to hold people accountable.
Right.
But it wasn't just the coaches. It was we asked, after we put a couple things up there and said, here's what we want. What do you want? And we actively had members of the team would walk up to the board and say, I think everybody should be at study hall on Wednesday night. That Wednesday, 2 people didn't show up. They got suspended from the team.
Wow.
By the captain, not the coach.
Yeah.
So you deliberately do things and you end up getting the results that you're looking for. And so Grand Canyon has, within 11 years, already made the national tournament this last year. I think there was 12 teams made the tournament. They played University of Arizona first round, only lost by 5 points, which is phenomenal, I think, because every other first round game was a blowout.
Like a blowout, yeah.
So it just goes back to that idea of, if you understand it, you can do it. You just have to take your time and do it step by step, no different than you would go into the gym doing things. We don't ask a 12-year-old to go in and pick up the heaviest weight and call it struggle, appropriate struggle. No, we need to set people up for success and help them understand what to do and how. And then give them the reinforcement, the confidence. Right? There's 2 main ways to build confidence. One is to remember past success, even if it's not at the same intensity, same level. Right? You did something in the past that you felt successful. Okay, remember that, because you're going to build yourself up. The next thing is to use mental imagery to imagine future success. And we talk to athletes about this all the time. Hey, use mental imagery. Put yourself in the game situation this weekend. That builds your confidence because you can visualize yourself doing something well. And so by building yourself up, you end up gaining confidence. People want to talk about, well, I need confidence in order to do well. No, confidence is the feeling of accomplishment. It's the other way.
Neil Wattier is our guest. He's the author of the book Built Different Mentally. I got to ask about this challenge. Procrastination purgatory. Just kind of getting stuck or
that's me.
Waiting too long.
That's actually me. That's my biggest one. I mean, if you leave it to the last minute, it only takes a minute, right? So it's...
Sometimes I feel more creative at the deadline.
Sometimes, right? And again, I'm not going to tell people how to live their lives, but if you want to be more successful, you got to be proactive. You have to set up goals. You have to set up your environment for success. Right? Like if I want to go to the gym, I know that if I don't go to the gym before noon, there's a 90% chance I'm not going to the gym. So what do I need to do? If I'm working and I have to be to work at 8 o'clock, that means I got to wake up at 5:30 to go to the gym. That's a decision that I need to make. And so I know that's going to be difficult. So what do? I make my lunch the night before. I pack my bag the night before. I set my wallet, my keys, and my phone exactly where they need to be so I can wake up in my half asleep stupor and stumble out the door and make sure that I have everything that I need. I'm setting myself up for success. Again, all this stuff is very simple. We just got to make sure that we understand how the mind works and work with it, not against it.
Wow. A couple more here. Distraction dilemmas. Squirrel. It's really hard with these windows. I got to tell you, Neil. We do a lot of people watching.
Yeah, this is fun. I like the setup. This is fun. And that's one of the things that we did really, really well at Grand Canyon was we help people be successful because we set them up. And one of the things that I often use was what I call the illusion, not the illusion of choice. The illusion of choice. So basically what this means is the greater your goals, the more defined your characters, the fewer decisions available to you. That sounds very restrictive, right? So the greater your goals, the more defined your character, the fewer decisions available to you. That's not a restrictive policy. That's actually very freeing when you get into it. Because if I want to be a person of character and I define what that means, then I have those above the line and below the line behaviors of things I don't get to do anymore and things that I have to do all the time. When an opportunity comes up for me to do something that's counter to my goals or my character, the decision is already made. No, I already said I'm not going to do that because I want this. And if you choose something else, then either your character and your goals were not as defined as they needed to be, or you don't want what you say you want, because you're willing to do the things that are going to distract you from your character and your goals.
Making those plans, actually, it's not even a plan. It's really definitions, creating those definitions. Is that hard for a young person? 'Cause I think it's hard for adults.
Absolutely. It is. But that's where the coaches and the parents, it's not about driving them to success. It's helping them understand what they need to do in order to be successful. Help them define what that means. What does it mean to have good character? Define that. Tell me the kind of person you want to be. When you say, I want to be successful, okay, well, you have to be more specific. Tell me what you mean by that, so that when you're going out there acting like a knucklehead, I can call you out. And it's a mutually beneficial conversation, because I can say, hey, you say you want to play sports and you want to get this grade and you want to do this job and you want to do all these things. Okay, well, tell me what you need to do in order to get there. What do you want me to hold you accountable for? For bedtime, for nutrition, for your behavior, for the friends you hang out, the money you spend, whatever it is. If you as a parent and you as a coach, you have these effective conversations, then when it's time to call somebody out, it's no longer a parent calling out a child. It's, hey, we had this conversation. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be your teammate. It could be your classmate. Hey, we had this conversation. You said you weren't going to act like that. You said you weren't going to do that, or you said you were going to do this. I thought you wanted this bad. I thought you wanted to be this kind of person.
Piece.
Right. And but I can't hold you to standards I haven't set.
I want to get to one more before we're out of time here. Team tangles. Again, maybe it is easier to be a runner or a swimmer than it is to be on a rugby team or a football team or a baseball team.
It's just different. I played football and I was a wrestler, and they are just absolutely unique. When you're on the mat, it's all you. Yeah. Right? It's a team sport to a certain extent, but when it's one-on-one out there, and that's the same thing when you're a runner. Like, you're running, or a swimmer. I have a client that I work with down in Florida. She's a swimmer, and we talk about, you don't have anybody standing in front of you trying to keep you from scoring a touchdown. You're just swimming in your lane, right? That's just a different sport that comes with its own challenges. So when you're on a team, you have to build the culture. You have to build the team. And this is probably the number one place that I start with coaches is, how do you hold people accountable? Have you set the standard? And I know I've said that numerous times, but again, let's keep this simple. You want people to buy into your program. Do you have a program worth buying into? And how do you hold people accountable to that?
How do they take that? I mean, again, they've already reached maybe, hey, I'm a Division II coach. I mean, hey, look at all the success I have.
Well, look at my conversation with Coach O'Leary.
Yeah.
He played in Ireland. He coached at Notre Dame for 10 years.
My goodness.
He won a professional championship in Colorado. I said that to this guy, and he looked at me, and I thought he was going to smack me. But, I mean, that's if you want people that are going to make you better, you have to be ready for the conversation. And certainly don't ask the question. Don't ask the question you're not ready for the answer. It doesn't mean that we have to agree. It just means I need you to be reflective and consider what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm going to tell you the answer. I may not have the answer. I may not understand the culture of your team or your organization. Well, then explain it to me. But if you can't explain it to me, well, then I understand why you're having so many problems.
Wow.
That's why Grand Canyon has gone from being ranked number 22 to last year being ranked number 10. Wow. in 11 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The book is Built Different Mentally. Give us a takeaway here.
Everything is about deliberate development. And when we talk about athletes, it doesn't have to be everything all at once. And if you want to be a very good supportive parent, if you want to be a very good coach, there has to be purpose and passion behind it. And remember that their journey is not your journey, right? Yeah. Help them get through their journey. Don't control their journey. Don't take over their journey. Let them go on the journey. And it's okay for them to be disappointed and upset and experience all the things that they need to experience. Allow them to go through the journey, but be the support that they need.
Can you give me one thing that you would tell that 16-year-old, maybe, maybe they're sitting on the bench, but maybe they're about to go in on the line or as a wide receiver. We're in camp right now. Give them some encouragement.
The thing that I needed to hear when I was in high school was your athletic identity is not your identity. You are not a football player, you're not a basketball player, you're not a volleyball player. You are a person who plays a sport. That doesn't mean that detracts from it. It actually means the accountability is higher because we're focused on the performance, not the person. You are a worthy person. You're worthy of success, and that's part of confidence. You are you're a good person. You're capable of performance and you're worthy of success. And if you start there, people will work hard, because even when there's shortcomings, even when there's errors, you're focused on the performance, not the person. You're not tearing down the purpose. You're not tearing down the person.
Yeah.
You are focused on the performance, and the performance can be better. And the performance becomes better through deliberate development. But that does not detract from the value of the person.
Neil Wattier, he is the author of the book Built Different Mentally. Thank you for sharing your expertise.
I appreciate you being here.
Fabulous here.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.